I wasn't supposed to see fire like that again, but I did. One second the night was quiet, the next my sister's car exploded in our driveway, flames tearing through metal like paper. The smell of gasoline hit my nose sharp and unmistakable, and in that moment I knew. This wasn't an accident. Somebody wanted us terrified. Somebody wanted us gone. And that somebody was Linda Markham, the president of our HOA. Act 1. The Spark. My name's Daniel Ruiz. I've lived in this Florida neighborhood for almost a decade. I thought I'd found peace here, freshly cut lawns, a clean driveway, the kind of place where kids play ball in the street without worrying. My sister Elena had just moved in with me, starting her new job, trying to get her life together. And then came Linda Markham, the type of woman who polishes her pearl earrings before stepping out to ruin your day. She ran the HOA like it was her personal kingdom. The bylaws weren't rules to her, they were weapons. And after Elena parked her car in our driveway a few nights too many, Linda decided to enforce her order. The night after the fire, Linda showed up herself. The ash was still fresh on the pavement. Elena's car, nothing more than twisted steel, and Linda stood there under the streetlight like nothing happened. "You can't leave that car sitting here another night," she snapped. "Guest passes expire at midnight." I pulled the bylaws out of my pocket. I carried them like armor by then. Section 4. Article 2. I told her, my voice steady. "Family guests can park for up to 7 days. Your fine is worthless." Her smile cracked just for a second. Then she smoothed it back on. "Rules only matter as much as we enforce them," she said. Enforce them. My sister's car had burned to the ground, and all she had was a smirk. Behind her I spotted Mara, the HOA secretary, clutching a stack of newsletters. She looked like she wanted to melt into the pavement. That flicker of fear in her eyes told me everything Linda's reign wasn't just about rules. It was about intimidation. That night Elena whispered to me, "Danny, what if she does it again?" I looked at the scar on the driveway, then at my father's restored Mustang gleaming under the porch light. That car wasn't just chrome and paint. It was his legacy, his memory. And I swore right then I wouldn't let Linda touch it. Act 2. Escalation and Doubt. Over the next week I started to see the pattern. Neighbors whispered at the pool in the mailroom on their porches. She fined us for shutters that aren't the right shade. She threatened to revoke my pool pass if I didn't trim my hedges. Always fines, always threats. Fear had become the HOA's official language. I walked into the HOA office one morning and saw it all up close. Mara sat behind the desk, her hands trembling as she stapled violation notices. She looked up at me, eyes full of guilt. "It's the board's decision," she said softly. But when I repeated Linda's name, she flinched. Through the glass I saw Linda laughing with 2 board members' bright red blazer flashing like a warning flare. She didn't even glance at me, why would she? In her mind she'd already won. At the next HOA meeting she put on a show. Sat at the center of the table tapping her pen, acting like a judge in her courtroom. "Your household has failed to comply with multiple regulations," she announced, "and the board has voted unanimously to escalate enforcement." The room shifted uncomfortably. Parents whispered, neighbors stared at their laps. No one spoke. And for the first time I felt the doubt creeping in. What if Elena was right? What if the safest thing to do was to keep our heads down, swallow the fines, let Linda win? For a moment I actually thought about walking away, about letting the fire and the fear consume us like it had consumed everyone else. But then I looked at Elena, her hands trembling on her notebook, her car already gone, her life disrupted. And I remembered my father's Mustang sitting in the driveway. No, that wasn't happening. Not again. I went back to the charred pavement, crouched low, and read the fire like I'd been trained to do years ago. The burn patterns stretched outward in a V pointing back to the wheel well. Electrical fires start inside. This one started outside. And when I dabbed a cotton swab across the curb, the sheen of gasoline lit up under the light. It wasn't just my gut anymore. I had proof. That night I texted a photo of the residue to Sam, an old colleague in the fire marshal's office. He replied instantly, "That's not electrical. You've got accelerant, no doubt about it." And then came the break I wasn't expecting. "Mara, I found her sitting alone at the park HOA newsletters, stuffed in her tote bag, looking like she wanted to disappear. She jumped when she saw me. "Daniel, you shouldn't be here," she whispered. But she talked. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was fear. But she told me what she'd overheard Linda the night before the fire telling the maintenance guy. "Make sure that car never comes back." And Mara handed me something else, a maintenance log. It showed the man had signed out a fuel container that same night. That was it. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. Linda wasn't just abusing power, she was lighting fires to enforce it. Still, Mara begged me, "Keep my name out of it. If she finds out I told you, she'll destroy me." I promised her I'd protect her. But I also knew the cracks in Linda's armor were starting to show. Act 3. The fire turns. I built my case like I was back in the marshal's office. Photos of burn trails residue sealed in a vial. The maintenance log. Mara's confession whispered in the park. Piece by piece I stacked the evidence until it felt unbreakable. Then I went to Sheriff Collins, Elena's father. I laid it all out on his desk. The sheriff flipped through the photos, the log, the residue. His face didn't move, but his eyes sharpened. Finally he said, "I'll be at the meeting. If this holds, I'll handle the rest." That was all I needed. The night of the HOA meeting, the clubhouse was packed tighter than I'd ever seen it. Neighbors lined the walls, whispering, nervous, hungry for whatever was about to happen. At the front sat the board, and at the center, as always, Linda in her crimson blazer, smiling like she was untouchable. She tapped her pen. "Mr. Ruiz, I trust you're here to address your repeated violations." I set my briefcase on the table, snapped it open, and spread the photos across the wood. The room went quiet. Burn trails, close-ups of residue. The log signed out with a fuel container the night of the fire. "This," I said, my voice cutting through the silence, "isn't negligence. This isn't enforcement. This is arson, deliberate, targeted." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Linda stood her chair, scraping back. "Outrageous lies. You can't come in here. Sit down, Linda." The sheriff's voice boomed from the back of the room. He stepped forward, badge flashing under the fluorescent lights. For the first time, Linda's smile faltered, and then Mara spoke. Her voice shook, but it carried. "He's telling the truth. I heard her say it. She told Mark the car had to go, that it should never come back." The room erupted. Neighbors gasped, shouted, finally found their voices. Years of silence broke like a dam. Fines, threats, intimidation. They poured it all out, one after another. Linda tried to shout over them, her voice cracking. "This community expects order," but nobody listened. Not anymore. The sheriff walked to the front, picked up the residue vial and the maintenance log. He turned to the board, his tone like iron. "This isn't a neighborhood dispute. This is evidence of arson, and as of now, it's a criminal investigation." Deputies moved in. Neighbors clapped, cried, whispered in disbelief, and Linda polished perfect. Linda sat frozen in her chair, knuckles, white eyes burning with a fury she couldn't hide. "Linda Markham, the sheriff, said you're suspended from all HOA duties effective immediately. You'll answer to these charges." The mask cracked finally, and all I saw in her face was fear. As deputies led her out, her empire crumbled with her. Neighbors stood taller. People spoke louder. For the first time, the air didn't smell like gasoline and fear. It smelled like freedom. Closing line. Power built on fear always burns itself down.